faithful subjects, today we gather to find the finest miniature in the Imperium with a triadic color scheme. But first, we must put a definition to that term. Servitor, bring me my color wheel. Adobe, serving the Imperium for almost 40 millennia, but draining our resources with their subscription fees. This color app is free at least, but I digress. I will look at 3 minis and decide if they are worthy or simply spilled paint and bad decisions. The unworthy will be incinerated. The worthy will be immortalized. Let us examine the first one. Here, Swart Miniature sent us this one, a representation of an ancient villain. Let us extract the color scheme for the glory of the Imperium. Deceptive. Perhaps this isn't a triadic at all, but rather another color scheme. But what is a color scheme anyway? Words are nonsense. The truth lies in the geometry. If the hue relationship forms a pattern with angles that can be cleanly divided, it is in fact a color scheme that likely has a name. Perhaps it is somewhat irrelevant what that name actually is, but today I desire an even 3-way split on the color wheel. Servitor, I demand a triadic color schemes. You have failed me.
My most humblest apologies, my lord.
Incinerate. Another mini. A miniature from loyal Imperial servant Kyle Dalton, a warrior making a lightning strike with his hammer. Glorious and a true triadic color scheme. But that word triadic only accounts for the hue. What about the saturation? It's represented on this wheel by the distance of the sample from the center, further from the center meaning more saturated. On this miniature, the hues have an even amount of saturation. The most saturated blues are roughly as saturated as the most saturated yellows and reds. This is called low contrast of saturation. On this miniature, the lack of contrast pulls my attention in many directions. This miniature has been corrupted by chaos. Perhaps if the maximum saturation of each hue was individually modulated to pull my attention to the most important elements, yes, that would be more deliberate and less chaotic. Or, if the saturation was kept at even levels, perhaps the areas of maximum saturation could be moved to different areas of the miniature to directly either. But these are just possibilities. I require truth, and I will not accept a miniature corrupted by chaos. Incinerate. Another mini. An interesting submission from off the planet. A filthy orc is unbefitting of such a beautiful color scheme. Like the Dalp, many of the hues are evenly saturated, in this case, a lower saturation. But look at how they are deployed. The blue, a higher saturation on the head than the tip of the spear, draws you into the face and eyes. And the other hues form a ring around the face, telling the viewer that the face is the most important element. And we haven't even talked yet about value, also called brightness, which acts independently of color. Our eye first goes to the highest value element, in this case the face. But look, the composition tells us where to go next, up the arm, which is a small but higher saturation gemstone sitting there for us to find. And again, the composition gives us a path out down the staff, which leads to some interesting elements here, with a linear curve that leads us back to the face. We are indeed caught in a loop, transfixed by the color scheme, composition, and values, all working together to control our minds and keep us caught in an infinite loop. This is true psychic warfare. This is true power. But is it worthy of mortalization? Shall I add its power to my own or cast it out with the power of fire? Fucking confetti? Who the fuck approved that?
You did, my lord?
Well, give me some options that don't fucking suck.
Yes, my lord.
These were interesting submissions, but I require more. I crave not some power, but all the power. I want to see the best triadic color schemes, the best split complementary, the best implementation of non-metallic metal of OSL. My thirst will not be quenched. Servitor, set up a Google Doc for submissions. Put it in the video description. I crave more.